Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been. Will be. How can there not? Just something about those blue skies, high banks, and high speed, all coming together in one perfect race. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Roll Tide and welcome to this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from Tuscaloosa as we moved on from our football season schedule of Tuesday and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central. Now every week, mark it on your calendar, we'll have the show coming up for you on Thursday at 2 p.m. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll have the show before taking a 2-week break for the Christmas and New Year's holiday, but we're glad to be back with you for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, covering the latest in Alabama athletics. We'll begin our show today by going through our headlines and what's coming up on the show thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through all the different headlines and what's coming up on the show today. First things first, we'll take a look back to the Iron Bowl victory with the booth cam highlights. Fun afternoon as Alabama won its third straight Iron Bowl against Auburn. And then we'll take you to Portland, Oregon, let you watch some Courtside Cam highlights from Alabama's win against #1 North Carolina in men's basketball. Certainly was a lot of fun on Sunday. Soccer team has been having a blast all season long, and that will continue to carry North Carolina this weekend for the College Cup. Head coach of the Crimson Tide, Wes Hart, will be along with Coach's Checklist. And then we'll talk some basketball with Richard Hendrix. We'll do this about twice a month coming up throughout the next few months, as Richard Hendrix is an SEC Network Plus basketball analyst, former Crimson Tide great. He'll be on the call for women's and men's basketball coming up on Saturday, so we'll check in with him about the Crimson Tide on the hardwood. And then finally, we will talk some football as we'll have our final Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind segment of the season, as Corey Reamer gives his thoughts not only from the Iron Bowl, but also what's happened this season for Alabama football, plus what could be coming up in either bowl or college football playoff postseason coming up shortly. Going through the rest of our headlines, we start with Crimson Tide football team. And, of course, Alabama winning the Iron Bowl. 3 straight Iron Bowl victories, and this one in Tuscaloosa was a 6th straight at Bryant-Denny Stadium. 49-27 the final score, as Bryce Young once again led the way with 3 touchdown passes. He also rushed for another touchdown. Great performance by Bryce Young in Alabama's 10th victory of the season. The Crimson Tide closed out the regular season 10-2 overall, and now 15 straight years with at least 10 wins for Alabama, and the Crimson Tide 6-2 in the SEC. We will find out coming up on Sunday where Alabama is going. There is still an outside path to the college football playoff. There's also a great path to a New Year's Six Bowl, as Alabama looks to be the top SEC team selected to a New Year's Six Bowl. So no matter what's coming up, it's going to be a desirable destination for the Crimson Tide, and we will learn about that on Sunday and have more coverage on that coming up next week on Crimson Drive. Crimson Tide soccer team, roll Tide roll. A big, huge victory in the quarterfinals against Duke last week here in Tuscaloosa, and now it'll be the College Cup against UCLA, also a #1 seed coming up. 7:30 start time from Cary, North Carolina. You already know, but Alabama's second-round victory made this the best season ever for the Crimson Tide. It's only continued all the way now to the College Cup. First appearance coming up for the Crimson Tide, and if Alabama is successful, they'll move on to Monday's championship match. On the other side of the bracket, you have 2 great teams, Florida State and North Carolina. So really great company in the College Cup, as Alabama's with UCLA, Florida State, last year's national champion, North Carolina, who has more national championships in the sport than anybody else. Just a loaded bracket coming up from the College Cup. Also, we have to say congratulations to Felicia Knox, Riley Mattingly Parker, Raina Reyes, who had that game-winning goal in overtime against Duke, Riley Tanner, and McKinley Crone have all been named to the All-Region team. And also another note, Alabama's staff was selected as the All-Region Staff of the Year for the South Region in soccer. Last but not least, Crimson Tide basketball. A busy week. Alabama women's basketball will start there after picking up a Sunday win against Gardner-Webb. Last night hit the road to Macon, Georgia, and picked up an 88-52 win. Alabama started the game on an 11-0 run, really never looked back. Great full court pressure on defense and three-point shooting all throughout led Alabama to victory. Now coming up Saturday, it'll be busy at Coleman Coliseum because we have 2 games coming up, starting with the women's game at 12 p.m. against another SoCon power, the Chattanooga Mocs. So we look forward to being back with you, and we'll have a Courtside Cam available for that game as well as the men's game later that night against South Dakota State at 6:30. Our radio coverage will begin at 6:30 start time for our radio coverage. 7:30 will be be the tip-off for Alabama against South Dakota State. The men's basketball team now ranked 11th in the country at the Phil Knight Invitational in Portland, Oregon. Alabama picked up wins against 12th-ranked Michigan State and also defeated number 1 North Carolina on Sunday in a dramatic victory. And also, the game Alabama lost on Friday was to an undefeated UConn team that ended up winning the Phil Knight Invitational. So Nate Oates said after the game, probably we finished about as well as anybody except maybe for UConn with the way everything turned out. But 3 powerful brands Alabama got to play, 2 great victories, and we'll see the Courtside Cam highlights in just a moment. But we will start with Crimson Tide football and the Booth Cam highlights from Saturday. A memorable Iron Bowl victory. They're always memorable, but especially here at home in Tuscaloosa as we look back on our Booth Cam highlights from Saturday.
Will Reichert approaches the football, and we are underway from Tuscaloosa, Alabama and Auburn on 3rd down and 7. Ashford with time, looking to throw, flush out of the pocket, pressure coming, throws it up and out of bounds and incomplete, and Alabama's defense forces Auburn into a 3-and-out. Will Anderson, an early introduction to Mr. Ashford. Bryce looking, wanted to go deep, now he will go deep. He's got a man in Burton, makes the catch, 15, stops and gets knocked out of bounds inside the 10-yard line. Bama setting up shop inside the Chick-fil-A red zone. Bryce gets the snap, rolling to his right as he's flush, heading for the pylon, get the race, wins the race, touchdown Alabama. 5-yard run. We were all trying to just will Bryce Young ahead of the Auburn defense. Deal that's going in motion left side. They'll run it right with Bigsby. Bama strings it out, knocks him down. He didn't wax the dude, but he got him pretty good around the 20-yard line. Alabama's Eli Ricks leading the way there for the Crimson Tide.
And it was Jordan Battle coming down from his safety spot that really made that play of taking on the lead block of the tight end that freed up Ricks.
3rd and 14, quick pitch left side. Bigsby trying to get to the edge. There's not one. He's shoved out of bounds after a gain of a couple. DeMarco Helms, Brian Branch. Bryce gets the snap, looks right, looks left, has a man catch made. McClellan. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Alabama. Wide out left, 2 tight ends right for Auburn. The eye set, they'll go option look left side. They'll get it to Hunter, he'll get to the edge. He lost the football, it's on the deck. Who's got it? I believe it's Alabama. It is. It's DJ Dale in the title takeover in Auburn territory. Bryce steps up in the pocket. He's looking deep, he'll throw it underneath. A beautiful diving grab. Isaiah Bond, a great adjustment. Hands it off, no play action, slant. Brooks, catch made, down inside the 15 and knocked down just shy of the 10-yard line. Beautiful fake, beautiful execution, beautiful to see. A tight end left as well. He'll bring a man in motion in Bond. The handoff going to Williams. 5, 4, 3, 2, and one more. Touchdown, Alabama. 5-yard touchdown run for number 5, Roydell Williams.
Love it right there. Got Cameron Latu, left tight end, Tyler Steen, and then Cohen at the left guard, just clearing out the pile. And Ja'Cory Brooks comes down from his wide receiver position to spring Roydell free. Alabama up on 20-7 right now on Auburn.
Bryce with a lot of time, looking downfield, firing, catches made. Law, 1st down and more, gets to midfield, gets to the 45 of Auburn, gets to the 40, and gets down to the 35-yard line. A huge bank first down. Butch tells me 39 yards, and Bama moves to 6 again. Play action to McClellan. Bryce again with all day, firing towards the end zone. Brooks, catch, touchdown, Alabama. 33 yards, Ja'Cory Brooks. He tied the game with Auburn late last year. Today, he gives Bama a 2-score lead late in the first half. Ashford looking, spinning away from trouble. Coming left side, coming left side, pressure coming, narrowly intercepted. If the pass had been thrown better, it would have been picked off. It will be fair caught, or he'll make that call. He didn't get it. He dropped it, and Alabama's recovered it. Recovered by Alabama, a heck of an effort. I believe that's the snapper, Nealon Hibbett. Play clock now down to 5 as the snap comes. Pressure coming up the middle. Bryce steps up. He's going to run it. 45-40 at the Auburn 35-30. Bryce wisely gets down around the 27-yard line. The snap goes to Young. Little bubble screen. Holding. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Alabama adds to its lead. 34-14. 50 54 seconds to go. Trayshawn Holden from 27 yards out. Trying to get a little pizza right here. We'll explain in a moment. As going in motion left side, Bama will hand it off. They'll work towards the goal line. McClellan keeps the legs turning into the end zone for a touchdown. They'll run left side. No, they'll throw. Ball is going to be knocked away. DeMarco Helms from the pistol. Ashford looking. Down he goes. Will Anderson credited with the second sack of the game for Alabama. Handoff goes to Gibbs. Right side. Cuts it back. He's at the 15. He's at the 10. He's in the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. The exclamation point tacked on by the Tide. A 24-yard run. Jahmyr Gibbs. Ashford getting the snap. Pressure coming up the middle. Ashford going down. Third sack of the day for Alabama as the clock ticks. 40 seconds remaining. Henry toe with a hit, and Ashford slow to get up. It has hit 0, and Alabama wins Iron Bowl 2022.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, and you can experience racing like never before. From the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high banks of one of the most exciting super speedways on the NASCAR circuit. Don't miss out on the 65th running of the Daytona 500 on February 19th. Hurry and lock in the best holiday gift of the season before it's too late. Get your tickets today at Daytona500.com. We roll on here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. From booth cam highlights to a look at the Courtside Cam. Now, yes, we weren't streaming live in Portland, Oregon, but we were able to capture some video from even not necessarily courtside. We had a little bit of an elevated perch as I filled in for Chris Stewart on the men's basketball broadcast, getting to work with Brian Passing for what turned out to be a terrific run for Alabama in the Phil Knight Invitational, a win against Michigan State, and then a tight loss against UConn, a team that's undefeated now in the top 10, and then Alabama on Sunday was playing North Carolina, the number 1 ranked team in the country. It may have been the 3rd place game in the Phil Knight Invitational, but it felt like a Sweet 16 or beyond game in the NCAA tournament. There was so much on the line, so much drama, so much heart between these two elite basketball programs, and I hope you'll enjoy some of the Courtside Cam highlights that we have from that broadcast, what turned out to be a game that went beyond the distance in Portland, Oregon. Quinterly zigzags inside, puts it up, puts it in, off the window, JQ. It's Alabama 24, North Carolina 20.
Off the window, but before that, behind his back.
As we get by, North Carolina only trailing by a point, it's hard for me not to sing along to this song.
And listen, there have been so many great Alabama fans that have switched over from the ESPN broadcast to get away from commentators singing Grateful Dead songs, and here you are sending them back to TV. But listen, Alabama's in good shape, and I feel bad for all those listening who can't see Roger Hoover dancing.
My Grateful Dead dancing.
To the Grateful Dead. Yeah. So were you and Bill hanging out before the game?
We hung out at shoot around. We decided that was enough.
Yeah, probably don't need to say any more about that.
Guarded by Puff Johnson, launching a three-pointer and connecting. Javon Quinterly, cold-blooded with a bank first three-pointer, and it's now Alabama with a 53-51 lead. Go to the top of the key, hands off to Miller, head fake by him, driving down the left side, floats it up off the window, no good. Bediako, then Miller gets the rebound. Miller, reverse layup is good, and that makes it 69-65. Top of the key, Gurley with the basketball to Miller, a couple steps to the left side, back to Gurley, driving left side, floats it to Bediako. He's got it. Bediako kicks it out to Sears, left corner three. Bada. Mark Sears with a three-pointer gets Alabama to within a point. A bank first three makes it 69-68. Right corner three, yes! Alabama's tied this game at 71 as Noah Gurley knocks down the bank first three-pointer.
Give JQ credit. Had Armando Bacot matched up on him. Got past the big man. Defense came over. Gurley wide open in the corner, knocks it down.
Quinterly inbounds pass to Sears. Right wing three is good. Right out of timeout. Drew up perfectly by Alabama. A bank first three by Sears. Makes it Carolina 75. Alabama 74. 3:10 to go. Miller, left side lane. Slams on the brakes midway. Backs up to the left front court. Looks to Quinterly left wing. Quinterly drives in left side. Spins around left block. Spins into the paint. Little floater up. Little floater in by Javon Quinterly. Alabama in front 81-79 with 2:55 to go in overtime. Points Quinterly to Bediako. A two-handed slam by Angry Chuck. And it's Alabama 83, North Carolina 81.
1 for 9. in the first overtime, 1 for 1 in the second.
Bediako feels the pressure from Baycott, spins around, drives, dunks with 2 hands. Alabama once again with Charles Bediako, a 2-handed slam, 87-83, crimson and white. Quickly to Miller, left corner 3, off the front iron, but the rebound and the putback by angry Chuck. Charles Bediako gets Alabama to 100. It's the Crimson Tide 100, North Carolina 98, a minute 50 in fourth overtime. Quinterly floats to the Bediako. He's got it. Right side layup good. Alabama in front 102-101 with 24 seconds left to go in fourth overtime and a timeout taken.
What a game by Charles Bediako. It was a beautiful pass by Javon Quinterly.
Inbounds pass to Davis. Davis against Quinterly just past the timeline. Top of the key. Heaves it at the buzzer. That's no good. And the game of the year in college basketball is over in a full 60 minutes of play and 4 overtimes. Number 18 Alabama defeats number 1 North Carolina 103-101 at the Phil Knight Invitational in Portland.
What a win for Alabama. They battled, faced adversity, foul trouble, injury, 4 overtimes, and Bama gets it done late on the defensive end.
The Crimson Tide winners, as it took a very, very full 60 minutes of play. The regular 40 plus 20 in overtime. And yay, Alabama sings loud and proud at the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Once again, the final score, Alabama 103, North Carolina 101. Yes, I have caught up on sleep since then. I have been able to rest after those 4 overtimes. I really took it out of Brian Passing and I on Sunday. But what a great moment for Alabama winning against North Carolina. Also, the celebration on the floor that the Crimson Tide have. Brian was trying to get that microphone ready to interview Nate Oates. He actually interviewed him from the tunnel. It was just a jubilant Crimson Tide locker room from what we heard. So, really cool moment for Alabama men's basketball, moving up to number 11 in the country. We'll have some more basketball talk coming up in just a little bit with Richard Hendrix. But that certainly was a fun way to close out Alabama's trip to Portland. Speaking of trips, the Alabama soccer team finally back on the road after they were last on the road for the SEC tournament in Pensacola. Alabama got to enjoy playing the first 4 games of the NCAA tournament here in Tuscaloosa, culminating last Friday in a win against Duke in the quarterfinals to move on to the Final Four, as we like to say in college soccer, the College Cup. And it was head coach Wes Hart earlier this week in the official NCAA press conference giving his thought on Alabama leading up to the College Cup and the first game against UCLA.
I'm thrilled at the opportunity to compete for a College Cup. I think, I think we've got a team right now that is filled with belief and confidence and hungry for more. So, it's been an awesome season, but we're not content. We want to come home with the College Cup. For us, we want to treat it like every other game. We want to, not get too caught up in, we're playing for a semifinal or playing for a final or whatnot. Kind of how we've approached every game this year. No matter who our opponent was, we tried to treat, every game the same and every opponent the same. So, for us, we want to, go in with, with the same confidence and the same belief and the same respect that we've shown every opponent so far. So we're not looking at this as a semifinal match. We're treating it like we have every other game. I think it's been huge. For us, when we started this season, it wasn't as if we were trying to introduce, a bunch of new pieces into the puzzle. And, we pretty much came back with the team from last year and a team that was, filled with confidence from the way we ended last season, as well as how we ended the spring season. So, I thought that was pretty big that, that we started the season with confidence and with a lot of returners. And, I think without question, it's helped us along the way.
Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been, will be. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Good luck to the Alabama soccer team out in Cary, North Carolina for the College Cup. Again, the matches on Friday in the semifinal and then the national championship game played on Monday night. It's going to be very hard for us to concentrate on a coach coming up on Monday at Baumhower's, but that's going to be the place to watch the championship game. Plus, a watch party is going to be there on Friday for Alabama's game against UCLA. So that's actually going to be the perfect place, even though we're going to be talking with coaches. We're going to be doing the whole show. We're all going to be glued to the television hoping that Alabama can bring home its first national championship in soccer. And if the Crimson Tide do win the national championship, or regardless of how it goes coming up in the next match or two, we will have more soccer coverage coming up next week on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. All throughout the basketball season, we're going to be joined a lot by Richard Hendrix. He is, of course, an SEC Network Plus analyst who covers both Alabama women's and men's basketball. He's going to be on double duty coming up this Saturday for the doubleheader, as Alabama women will take on Chattanooga at noon, and then the men's team will take on South Dakota State at 7:30. But it was a great time to catch up with Richard Hendrix. He's been keeping an eye on Alabama women's and men's basketball, and he kind of gives us a first month recap of what we've seen so far for Alabama. Here's what we like to call Hoops with Hendrix. Roll Tide, Richard. It's great to see you. What have you thought of the first month of the season we've seen for Alabama so far?
Well, Roll Tide, it's been a lot of really good basketball from both teams, the men and women's side. As you've been able to see, Alabama men's coming off a big-time tournament finish out there at the Field Night Invitational, upset win over the number one team in the nation, North Carolina. And the women's side has really seemed to be hitting their stride. It's a really fun time for Alabama basketball right now.
It really is. We look forward to being back inside Coleman on Saturday for first the women's game against Chattanooga. Let's talk about Christy Curry's team for a moment. We've seen this group have a couple of losses mixed in there to USF and also to a very good Utah team, but now they're starting to hit their stride with 3 straight victories. And something you and I have talked about all season long, the depth of this team really is a strength for this group, and that's shown off in the last couple of games.
Well, it's not just the depth of this squad, but I think they are starting to experience a lot more roster diversity. And what I mean by that is you're seeing a lot of different players on this team taking on different roles. When you have a lot of really, really talented players, I think there's a lot of pressure when you see individual players wanting to come in and do what the player in front of them does and not be themselves. Last game, when they won last night, was a really, really sound victory that they started off against Mercer, hot in the very beginning. Cooled off a little bit in the middle of the game, but finished strong. And you were able to see several players on Alabama do exactly what they do best. That's what you want to see from your ball club.
And how good was Alabama's full court pressure, getting all those steals, all those takeaways that really allowed Alabama to jump out to that 11-0 lead?
Well, the main player that starts with is Sarah Ashley Barker. And it's good to see a player who is coming over with so much fanfare, with the legacy she comes from this program and this university. There has to be an enormous amount of pressure on a player like her to perform. She hasn't necessarily played up to her abilities in the first so many games of the season, trying to find her rhythm, but I think she's starting to hit stride and be the player that she can be. She's a scrappy player. She plays hard. Physically, she's able to do many things on the court, and when she's at the top of that full court press, she's very active. She gets her hands on a lot of loose balls. She gets deflections. She's able to get out in the game, get some steals, and get some easy layups to get herself going. When she's able to play that style of game, it parlays right over into the better players on the scoring side as Brittany Davis, Megan Abrams. They're able to play their game offensively to get in and do what they do.
And even with Brittany Davis, didn't knock down a three-pointer last night against Mercer, but did everything else really well, was able to get to the rim pretty effectively. Her rebounding, her defense also showed up. Just what does it say about Alabama to win in such a dominant fashion, hit so many three-pointers when Brittany Davis isn't hitting threes?
Well, they seem to be sinking. And not only is it just with Brittany Davis finding different areas of her game, we know that she can shoot the ball from the outside, but it's so refreshing to see that she's added so many other areas to her game. The right hand, where she's a left-handed player, she's a very left-handed dominant player, but you saw so many times last night when she was driving right, setting her players up, going left and working back to the right side of the floor. When she can add that to her game, she's very, very tough to handle. But for me, it's been a pleasure to watch on the women's side so much of the offensive creativity and the development from each individual player. Hannah Barber, knocked down three-point shooter from last season. You're seeing a lot more driving to the paint this year, finishing with some mid-range jump shots, stepped up her game, along with her floor general leadership that she's able to balance the team. And Aaliyah Nye stepping up with nice, sweet stroke from the outside. If Alabama can get everyone playing, like I said, their game, they can really start to hit their stride when they move towards conference play, and they can be a very, very tough team.
Really impressive run for the Crimson Tide women's basketball team. They'll be at home Saturday against Chattanooga. Then later that night, it'll be Alabama men's basketball at home against South Dakota State in a matchup that you and I will get to call on the SEC Network Plus. And we also called this matchup last year. The Jackrabbits and the Crimson Tide get to meet once again this season. And we're looking forward to seeing Nate Oates' team once again after what a weekend they put together in Portland.
Yeah, they did a great job. A 4 overtime game. They must be exhausted and must be thrilled to get a few days off and break to get a chance to come back to Tuscaloosa. But they'll be playing a tough South Dakota State team, well coached, but they'll have the benefit of the doubt. They'll be coming off a back-to-back coming into Tuscaloosa. So Alabama will have to make sure they're rested to take advantage of that.
And for the Crimson Tide, started that tournament in Portland with a strong win against Michigan State, and then the next day in a back-to-back situation fell to a very good UConn team that's currently undefeated, won the Phil Knight Invitational. Turnovers seemed to hurt Alabama in that ball game, but it seemed like, Richard, they were able to clean that up against North Carolina.
They were able to take a day off and come back and regroup. When you're playing, Michigan State team led by Hall of Famer coach and Tom Izzo, and then you come back the next night with historically one of the better programs in the last 25 years in UConn, and then come back after a day off to play North Carolina, the defending ACC tournament champ, and made a Final Four run last year. This is a very tough challenge for Alabama. So to come out with 2 wins and 1 loss in that tournament, to play the way they did, to win some games in very impressive fashion, I think they have to be pleased where the squad is trending, and to get Javon Quinterly back in action, starting to hit form, they have to be pleased in the direction they're going.
Charles Bediako, a double-double against North Carolina, logging the most minutes he's ever played. What'd you see from his play, especially in overtime, being so physical when Alabama needed it?
Well, I'm a big man, so I love to see that. I love to see Charles Bediako starting to go down low, making some big-time plays for Alabama when they needed him most. His aggressiveness rolling to the basket last game, finishing with a clutch alley-oop finish to give Alabama a lead. And you're starting to see him take the stride that the team is going to need from him to be able to get to the next level. The interior presence on the defensive end, stepping up with a huge block shot late in the clutch. You can see his ability on display. This is a talented Alabama team, but he's the veteran presence. And if he can continue to have that type of form where he's aggressive on the rebounding, offensively, defensively, also just trying to dominate defensively with blocking shots on the boards, with all of the talent around him. As I said before, he's the key piece to really making this team get further and further.
What did you see from freshman Brandon Miller, his first time on a big national stage over those 3 games?
Well, I think not only did he impress me, but I think he impressed everyone. I mean, I've gone out and said it. Brandon Miller is one of the most impressive and talented freshmen that Alabama has ever really had. He's shown a lot of on-court versatility with his size and length. 6'8", 6'9". He can dribble the ball up and down the court. He can run pick and roll. He's one of the leading rebounders on the team. He's defensively, he's versatile. He showed some post-up action in the last recent games, hitting mid-range jumpers. I mean, the sky is the limit for this kid. If he continues to trend in the direction he can, then he's going to have a bright future, and Alabama fans should be thrilled that they get a joy to watch this.
So a really good start for the Crimson Tide in November. Now we're gearing up for this month of December that starts with Saturday's game against South Dakota State. And then after that, Houston, Memphis, Gonzaga. There's some huge matchups on the horizon. Just what do you want to see from this Crimson Tide team coming up through the next month?
Consistency. What you want to see is the team continue to grow within their offense and grow within their defense. They hit strides where they're playing really, really good basketball and trying to determine and find an identity within themselves. But I think they are trending in the right direction. But the challenge won't get any easier. Head coach Nate Oates always puts together a tough non-conference slate. They'll continue to have some tough challenges moving forward, but it will only make the team much more better.
Richard, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on the broadcast coming up on Saturday for Alabama women's and men's basketball. Look forward to seeing you and also back here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network once again soon. But thank you so much. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Always fun to catch up with Richard Hendrix. Again, he'll be on the SEC Network Plus call for the women's game on Saturday against Chattanooga, the men's game against South Dakota State at 7:30 on Saturday. A busy doubleheader, even though it is going to be not truly back-to-back games, but we can't wait to be inside Coleman Coliseum for basketball on Saturday. Monday night was the final time we went to Vestavia Hills and to Baumhower's Victory Grill for Crimson Tide Rewind, as we always look back at the previous Alabama football game. And this year we got to look back, or this week we got to look back at the Iron Bowl, plus Alabama's season as a whole. Of course, Corey Reamer is the co-host of that show as I filled in for Eli at Baumhower's. We had a great crowd on hand and we talked a lot of Crimson Tide football. Here is our Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind recap from this previous Monday.
I can't believe it's already the end of the season. I mean, how fast did this go by? It's great to get a win in the Iron Bowl. Always is a great time to get a win. It was a exciting game. It was a fun one to watch. There was a lot went on, but I thought Alabama came out and played extremely well and looked really good against an Auburn offense that had a lot of success in the running game against a lot of other teams and had success on Saturday. But they were able to go out there and find a way to get the win.
Could Alabama take care of business, even knowing that you weren't going to be the SEC West champion, you weren't going to have the opportunity to go to Atlanta and play for an SEC championship? Alabama did take care of business.
Yeah, they did, and that's the only thing you can do. Still a huge season, 15 straight years of Alabama having 10 wins. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. There's a lot of programs that are out there that wish they could say they've had a run that goes on that long. And you got to give it to these guys. After all that fell apart through the middle of the season when Bryce goes down and had a couple losses and the things that they set out to accomplish at the beginning of the season got removed, and they still came out and really finished the year strong, which you got to give a lot of props to them for remaining focused and the guys that obviously are going to have an opportunity to go play beyond their college careers, seniors that are graduating. It could be easily folded in because there was a lot of pressure for this team to go out there and accomplish a lot of things. A lot of talk during the offseason, preseason. Expectations were high for this team with who we had coming back, the playmakers that we had on both sides of the ball. And, sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. And you lose 2 games by a combined total of 4 points on the road both times. It says a lot about this team and how they fought back and still ended up finding a way to get 10 wins on the year.
And once again, the offensive line keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, they did. J.C. Latham and Tyler Steen did a phenomenal job on the edges, and all those guys in the middle doing a phenomenal job of protecting the pocket in the passing game, but also opening up a lot of run lanes in the running game. So they did a phenomenal job against pretty good, productive Auburn defensive front. I mean, they've been able to give some offenses some trouble this year, especially with Hall on the edge. I know he had a little injury at some point in the game, but they've got plenty of athletes and are well coached. And Alabama's offensive line has come a long way. It took a while for them to really put probably one of their better games together, but no better time than in the Iron Bowl is when you want to see those guys really put it all together.
And Bryce Young was effective throwing the football, 343 yards, 3 touchdowns. He included 9 receivers in his passing attack, including Robbie Utes, 2 catches, 49 yards.
I saw that. I'm excited to see everybody get involved, especially when Robbie Utes gets involved. And had some big plays, too. They weren't just little dink and dunks. He was able to turn and make some plays up the field and lower his shoulder and get some extra yardage, some yard after catch. I'm sure his yak average only went up after this weekend. Good to see all the guys get involved. Jermaine Burton had a huge game. Corey Brooks had another phenomenal game. I think one of the things is that there were still a lot of times we were looking for some receivers to get some separation, which is why so many receivers get involved. That's why you're seeing 9 guys catch it. He hasn't had that one guy this season, which we're so used to seeing from these Alabama teams, and quarterbacks just having that one receiver that you can always go to, that Jamison Williams or that Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith, that old reliable, that faithful. If it's third and whatever down the distance, I don't care if they've got 2 guys on him, I'm throwing it to him because I know he's going to make that catch. That just hadn't been the case this season, so we've had to utilize a lot of different players in this wide receiver core, and I thought another good thing they did this weekend was they held on to the football. They were able to bring it in and maintain the catch all the way to the ground and not dropping footballs, which is always good to see. You just look at how that had an effect on this game, turnovers, and you look at what Alabama up to this point in the season, what Alabama was in the turnover ratio, and that just shows you how difficult it is to win football games when you're negative in the turnover ratio battle, and you can't afford to be that. If you want to win ball games in this league, you've got to create more turnovers than you give away. And that turnover right there was a complete changing point in this football game because Auburn was having success, and they were out there executing their game plan extremely well with the 3-headed monster with Jarquez Hunter, Tank Bigsby and Robbie Ashford in the backfield, and the way that they were drawing up their running plays and executing them very, very well. They were moving the football pretty effectively early on. And if not for that turnover, that they might go down and score another touchdown and even things up, and we were able to capitalize. Not only were we able to create turnovers, we were able to capitalize on 2 of them and put points on the board from it. It's huge in a football game, especially one of this magnitude. You've got to be able to not only create them, but also get points, whether it's field goal or touchdown. If you can do that, you've got a pretty good chance to win the ball game.
How about Hoover High's Will Reichert?
Yeah, the highlight reel that is Will Reichert. Running down on the kickoff and making a huge stop on kickoff. It was one of my favorite moments, and he wanted every bit of it too. He got up and he had a little stare down for the guy as well, and you could tell he was excited to be able to make a play like that because kickers don't get that opportunity very much, and usually when you see a kicker coming down and be involved with a tackle, it's usually not a very good look for the kicker. He's usually the one getting run over. There's not many of them that come down and lay the wood. I would even categorize that hit as laying the wood for Will Reichert. All 112 pounds of him, just bringing every little bit that he had and getting the guy on the ground, and he was pumped. The sideline was going nuts too.
Do you even see it in practice very much?
No, you don't see kickers anywhere in practice. They're usually doing yoga in the barn, and you don't ever hear anything from them until the very end when we coach is like, all right, if we can make this field goal, we don't have to condition, and they come out and miss it, and we got to run. It's like, what have y'all been doing all day? You literally have not had any part of this practice, and you can literally save us all from having to run more than we've already had to run this practice, and you missed this field goal. Now we got to run extra because of you. Where have you been? What have y'all been doing? You find out they've been, playing patty cake inside. So you don't see
disrupted
kickers
their
doing
namaste.
Anything. I love kickers. I love them. Hey, they're crucial. They are. I mean, Will Reichert's one of the best ones that we've ever had, but you see a guy, we had one, was it Cade Foster that we had a few years ago that was like, he'd kick the football off and he'd be the first one down there making tackles. You'd love to see that. I mean, I wouldn't say that Cade Foster and Will Reichert are built the same, but they're pretty close.
Are you still in touch with any of your kickers when you played
Alabama?
Alabama? You're still good friends? Or?
P.J. Fitzgerald and Lee Tiffin and Brian Selman, we all talk talked to Brian Selman a pretty good bit. We had a good relationship because I was the up back on the punt team, so had to deal with all those specialists a decent amount. But we always got to keep them in check, keep them in their place a little bit. You hear that coming from me as a mode of jealousy because we're out there just banging heads there in practice, and I just wish I was smart enough to have been a specialist or a long snapper instead of playing linebacker.
So 2-a-days were nothing for them.
Yeah, I mean,
now we don't even
like
have
they
2
just
days.
hanging out in the cold tub, man. Just getting their ice cream and getting the cold tub. It was tough.
If I'd known that would have been Corey Reamer's reaction to talking about kickers, I would have brought it up to the beginning of every show for Crimson Tide Rewind the entire year. I mean, that was pretty incredible what he said at the end of that clip. That was Be Kind, Crimson Tide Rewind. Corey will still be with us for our pregame and postgame coverage of Alabama football coming up in the postseason, but that was a really fun time at Baumhower's Victory Grill. We thank them for being a great host, of course, of Crimson Tide Rewind on Monday nights all throughout football season. But we're starting to shift away from football a little bit, and it's time to update some of our programming on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and it is time for the Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. We have the pickle chips as well as the okra that's always delicious available as well. You can find out more at WicklesPickles.com. Let's take a look at what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Well, of course, basketball is taking center stage here on the network, and coming up on Saturday, we'll be very busy with 2 broadcasts coming up, and I should mention before that, on Friday, it will be Alabama soccer taking on UCLA. Watch party at Baumhower's at 7:30 p.m., so make sure you get down to Baumhower's Victory Grill, not just in Tuscaloosa, but all across the state of Alabama. Any Baumhower's location will make sure they have the Alabama soccer game on the majority of their screens. No matter where you're sitting in the restaurant or at the bar, you'll be able to see Alabama soccer against UCLA, so make sure you join us coming up for that watch party at Baumhower's on Friday, and then hopefully later on Monday as well. But next up on the network, we will have women's basketball broadcast against Chattanooga, the men's game against South Dakota State coming up at 7:30 on Saturday. Again, booth cam will be available for both of those games, so make sure you log on to the Crimson Tide Sports Network social media channels for the latest, even on your television with the YouTube app. A great way to keep up with us throughout those games. And our men's basketball coverage, one other note, note, will start at 6:30 coming up for the men's game against South Dakota State. Sunday, you can catch up on all Crimson Tide sports with Tide TV This Week, hosted by Kinsey Hughes. Look forward to that show each and every week. Then Monday will be our first edition of the basketball season of Hey Coach, as Nate Oates will be joining us, as well as the new gymnastics coach at the University of Alabama, Ashley Johnston. Look forward to that. And then we're going to be back on Thursday of next week with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR at 2 p.m. Really nothing after Monday because it is exam week coming up here at the University of Alabama, so no midweek basketball games coming up for the Crimson Tide, but that's a look at our Wickles Weekend Update, again brought to you by Wickles Pickles. This show, Crimson Drive, is driven by NASCAR, and please don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy and excitement of the Great American Race. It's the Daytona 500 coming up on February 19th. You can get your tickets today for the Daytona 500 at Daytona500.com. That's going to round out this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, as we start to shift to some of our non-football season programming. And again, we're going to have this show for you coming up on Thursday at 2 o'clock all throughout the rest of the school year. And of course, we will take a 2-week holiday break coming up, but we'll still have a show next week, hopefully talking about a soccer national championship and more wins for the basketball team. We'll be right back here coming up on December 8th for our next edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Special thanks to all the guests we've had on the show today, especially Richard Hendrix giving us great breakdown of Alabama basketball. Thanks to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, for putting this entire show together. Thanks to all of you for watching. It's been a fun, winning week of Alabama athletics. Let's keep it going this weekend. For everybody with Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching, and Roll Tide.